In the previous video, we have ensured that if we create structures so that our units are stacked together, we can still select all of those. And of course, we can select our player, our agent, and if the agent can move, it will be able to. For now, before we can select our town and create units, more units, because right now the town is removing one farmer from our map, I would like to add this feedback here, a special window that will show us what exactly do we have selected. So first thing that I want to do is go to prefabs folder and select UI, and in the UI folder we should have info panel. If we drag it to our canvas, we should see that there is an image in your game window appearing. We can select it and click F in the scene view to see this UI. So this will be our UI. All it has is the image that we will be able to swap for whatever we have selected. We are going to simply use the same sprite that is shown on our map, and we have a text panel which will simply show the text. For now, we are going to simply type farmer unit or the name of the game object. Later on we may want to add something better here. For now, this is what we are going to work on. So we have our UI. Now what we will want to have is some sort of a script on our info panel that will be able to receive informations about what we want to show in this info panel. So we are going to go to scripts folder, UI, and we will need to have a new UI script. So let's right click, create a new C# script, and we are going to call it UI info panel. And let's open it up. Great. Now in this UI info panel, we will need to get access to our text and to our image. But before that, we need to import using at the top, let's type TM Pro. And this is because if we go to our Unity, we are going to see that our text is of type Text Mesh Pro. So this is not the default Unity text, but this is by default available in Unity. You can find those Text Mesh Pro components. Now all should be imported in the setup project. If it is not, you need to add a Text Mesh Pro, UI Text Mesh Pro, and it will open an additional menu which will prompt you to import some additional packages, and it will be automatic. So if you have all of this, let's go back to script. And here I will paste some code. So we are going to have at the top serialized field private, and we are going to get text mesh pro u GUI, and this will be named text. So this is the text field that we have. Next we will have a serialized field private image, info image, and to have the image class, right click, quick actions, and we need to type Unity using Unity engine.ui at the top here. And we are going to have the access to our image class. So we need to have two methods: setData, public void setData, that will pass in sprite, and string text. And we are going to simply set this name text.text, so this is the text of our text field, equals our text, and info image, so our image.sprite equals our sprite. And we will have public void toggle visibility that takes bool value, and we are going to set the game object setActive to be this value. And that's it for our UI info panel. Let's save it. Let's go back to Unity. Great. So we are going to select our info panel UI, and we are going to drag here our info panel UI info panel script. We need to assign our text TMP as the name text and our image as the info image, and that's it. Now, to have the info passed from our units, so from our farmers or from our buildings, we need to create an additional script. So let's select scripts, right click, create a C# script. We are going to call it info provider. And now let's open this script up in Visual Studio. Great. Here what we are going to do is paste again some code. We are going to have a reference to our serialized field private sprite render. So each and every object on our map has a sprite that represents it, so we can simply get the reference to our sprite render. Now this is a very simple way to get those informations. And next we are going to have a public sprite image, so this will be a property that will return, so lambda expression, and we are going to return sprite render dot sprite. Now this property is a simplification of writing a public sprite and we would have get sprite, and we would have this method, and we would return here the sprite render dot image and dot sprite. So basically, this is the shorter form of this. And we are going to have a public string name to display another property that will have lambda expression GameObject.name. And this will return the name of this game object on which info provider resides. So, of course, we can upgrade this script later on when we have some more meaningful info, but for now, this is just for the sake of displaying something, some feedback to our player. Let's save it. Let's go back to Unity. Right? Now, again, we are going to have to open our prefabs and select our farmer unit, and we are going to add to our components on this farmer unit, add info provider, and we are going to drag worker underscore 2 as the sprite render reference. Let's go to our next prefab, which is farm structure, and let's add info provider here as well. Drag worker underscore 2, a script sprite renderer, and we are going to, of course, open the town structure and do the same. Add info panel and drag the sprite. And now, if we go back, we should have all the prefabs containing the info provider. So now we can pass those info. And last thing that we will need to do is add another script, something like our selection manager. So something like our selection manager script that will simply find all those info providers. And if we have this script, we are going to display this info inside our UI. Now again, we prefer to create new script rather than modify the existing one. So unless we have to, we prefer to create a new script. So that's what we are going to do. Let's right click in our scripts folder, create a new C# script, and we are going to call it info manager. And let's open this script up in Visual Studio. Great. I'm going to delete the start and update. And we will need to, of course, have the reference to our UI info panel here. Okay, so if we have this, let me paste the rest of the script. And when we start our game, we will want to hide the info panel. So let's type hide info panel, right click, quick actions, and generate this method. After we have hidden this panel, we are going to have a public void handle selection, a method that takes game object selected object. This is exactly the same as we had in our selection manager, so we are going to assign this method to our player input, so we are going to get information when we have selected something. At the start, we are going to again call our hide info panel method that will hide our panel. Now, if the selected object is equal to null, we are going to simply return. If not, we are going to try getting the info provider, so info provider equals selected object get component info provider. If this is null, again we are going to return. If not, we are going to call show info panel and pass to it info provider. Right click on it, quick actions, and generate this method. So first of all, this show info panel, it will receive the info provider, and we are going to call info panel toggle visibility true, so this will set this panel to be visible, and we are going to call info panel set data info provider image. So our property doesn't require us to call those parentheses because it's not a method, it is like a field that we can access publicly, but we cannot set the value to it, so it is more encapsulated a bit more than a simple field in our class. And we are going to do the same with info panel name to display. We are going to pass this data to our info panel. And this is it. This should show us our info panel. Else, we are going to call our hide info panel, and last method is our hide info panel, which will simply call info panel toggle visibility to be false. This will hide our info panel. Great. This is the whole script that we will need to have. Let's save it. Let's go back to Unity. Great. Let's create in our hierarchy a new empty object information manager. Okay, let's reset its transform. Let's assign here our info manager script. And to this script, we will need to assign our canvas. And we are going to select our info panel UI because it contains the UI info panel script. So let's select our information manager and assign here our info panel UI. Now, to our player input, to our onHandle mouse click, we are going to assign our info manager, and we are going to call info manager, and we should have handle selection method. Now again, we could probably automate it to assign those automatically by extracting a common interface from them, but let's not worry about this right now. So let's test our system. Let's press play, and we will see that this panel is gone when we start playing. If we select our unit, we are going to see the image and the farmer unit 1. Select the other unit, farmer unit. If we select and create our farm, and the second one will create a building, a town, we still have this, so we will need to ensure that we hide this panel whenever we finish building a structure. For the second one, as you can see, you can click a stacked object and it will swap the selected object here. We can see farm structure clone and the farmer unit, and the town also works here. So this is great, this works. Now of course, if we click next turn, it will still show up. So we need to fix two issues. Let's focus on the second one. So let's go back to our info manager. Here all we need to do is add iTurn dependent, right click, quick actions, and implement the interface. And when we have this wait turn, what we are going to do is call hide our info panel. Great. And let's go back to Unity. And last issue that we have is that the panel is not hiding when we create our town, when our unit is destroyed. The simplest solution that we can apply is go to our build system, open the script. So we'll select those three dots near the building manager, edit the script, and we are going to add at the top a serialized field, and we are going to create private info manager. And what we are going to do is when we are going to assign this info manager through the inspector, and when we handle the build structure, so when we call this method, and when we know that we want to destroy our farmer, we are going to also call info manager dot I think we had hide selection hide, and I don't think that this is a public method. So let's go to our info panel script. Let's make sure that our hide info panel is public. Let's save it. Let's go back to building manager. Let's type hide and control space to bring all the methods that matches what we have typed. We have hide info panel, and this is a quick fix of our issue right now. Let's save this or file and save all scripts. Let's go back to Unity. Great. Let's assign to our build system, to our building manager, our info manager reference. And now we should be able to press play, and we should be able to select our farmer, create town, and the UI is gone. We can select our town, we can select our unit, make it create a house. Let's select a house, click next turn, and we still do not have this functionality because I forgot to add to the info manager our helper, so player turn taker. Now we should see that if we press play, our info manager will react to the next turn. Great, so it all works as expected. Okay, finally we are done with adding the feedback about the selection. So now we are ready to create a UI so that when we click on our town, we are also going to get a build menu that will allow us to add more farmers and build warriors on our map. And we are going to press next turn, and then the warrior will be created. So that's what we are going to start working on in the next video. See you there!